Hey guys, it's Tuesday morning, and I've just been on I'll call it a camping trip. I did take my tent and I did set up my tent, but the winds blew it over, and I was in a state where I could just stay in the guest room if it didn't work out at the campsite, and so I did that. I stayed in the guest room. So, was I really camping? Let's say I was practicing for when I'm really camping. And there were a lot of fires. This is Central Oregon that I was in, and I went through the nation of Warm Springs on the way, both directions, and they were having their fires, and it's all intercooperative, the different jurisdictions fighting the fires and so on. And now I'm back in Portland. And while I was on vacation, I'll call it a vacation, things happened, of course, in my world of synergetics and presenters out there using my slides who obviously want support, need support. If you're going to present synergetics in a public way, you need to know what it is and how to do it. And that's not taught in schools currently. So you need channels like this to get up to speed. And you need really talented people like Trent Slade. Let me introduce. I haven't met him, he's in Australia, but let's start with the Quadcraft project. This is where I was working with Crescent City and Cascadian Synergetics faculty on getting more overlap with the gaming community, you could say, people who write computer games. Or I've realized that my mind was a little bit too narrow there. Like what Trent has been doing is closer to what I actually kind of need, which is didactic. Like it's not a computer game so much as a teaching experience, more like going to a museum with interactive exhibits. And in fact, his Synergetics 95, a recent work that came out while I was camping, quote unquote, uh, it follows kind of the model of Encarta. Encarta 95, you might remember this was a Microsoft CD that showed how an encyclopedia could be transferred onto a computer and made much more interactive, more interesting. So here I am showing you some of, I haven't had time to really go through this myself yet. I got to this exhibit and I'm like, okay, this is a tough one. This is a hard part. And it's the same with quad race. How do you go back and forth between XYZ and IVM coordinates? And Bucky made some decisions, some design decisions relating to what we call the synergetics constant today. And I think if you're a presenter of my slides, it behooves you to look into quad race through the window I look through and learn them the way I teach them because it's always consistent with synergetics and bringing forward things like the synergetics constant, the volumes table, and Trent is doing a pretty good job there, following what I would call um, hardline synergetics, do you want to call it, or just some people aren't into synergetics, but they're into quad race. That's a literature that develops independently. It doesn't require knowledge of synergetics. It doesn't require that much interest in the Bucky stuff. And that's fine, Like, why should it? Right? Really, there's all kinds of interesting worlds to explore. And this is one of them, but for like, think of a namespace, think of a planet, think of an ecosystem. To have local coherence, it's like, think about fine wine. Think about how it really takes a lot of work to get a fine wine, right? There's a whole process. And then you can put your brand on it and, people buy it because it's good. So then you might think, okay, so if I go out and buy all the most expensive wines, all the most fine wines, let's say, and I kind of get a punch bowl and I pour all those top line wines into a punch bowl and stir it and add ice cubes and make punch that way, isn't that going to be even more sought after and expensive, right? Aren't people going to want that punch because it's got all the best wines mixed together? And obviously that's a joke, right? That's a parody because it would be kind of a horrible mess. And it's nobody's fault that we're not all on the same page because it's not a problem to fix. When you start blaming, that means you think there's a problem. And I'm not blaming because I don't think there's a problem. I'm happy with it. There are a lot of namespaces and people are not on the same page. Like when I do my little Bible thumping, right? If I get into Quaker mode and I want to give a sermon, now Quakers are not known for giving sermons, especially in my branch of Quakers. But I go to the Tower of Babel and I say, thank God we don't all speak the same language and that the confusion of tongues did occur. Thank God. I want that. Because otherwise you get groupthink and totalitarianism. That's kind of what you would have had if we hadn't had the Tower of Babel dispersed. Right? I think of the construction of the Tower of Babel and trying to reach God by let's all get on the same page and all talk and think the same way and build this really tall tower so we can get closer to God. I see that as misguided and stupid, right? So it's fine with me if we're not all on the same page. Let me just say that up front. But then if you do want to say get on the same page as say me, then it's a good idea to look into quadrays the way I do it and get the coordinate, conversions that I've got. And, that's the fine wine I have. And I'm not encouraging you to blend it all together. And I think part of the problem with sicking, I'll call it sicking, like sicking a dog, sicking an AI legion, like going out in an agentic way and just say, give me everything you know about quadrays and make something cool, is that there'll be a lot of namespaces involved and you'll get the punch bowl. You will not get something cool. Now Trent got something cool because he stayed focused, and with Synergetics 95, same thing. He's focusing. He's not confusing it with Haken's Synergetics, which some people do. Anyway, I just wanted to make that clear as I show these things in the background that it's not an issue that you can be into the same things I'm into and yet be worlds apart, off on a whole different planet, and that's fine. Like, we don't have to all come to an agreement, and that's, not a value. I'm into diversity, obviously. That's why I like living here in a diverse, I'm glad we don't all have the same religion. That would be horrible. That would be horrible. Okay? I'm not one of those monoculture advocates. Okay, so good talking, and please check out in the description, you'll see links to both of these new works, new assets from Australia. And while we're talking Australia, let me just add another note of appreciation to the Utragon guy, as I call him, from Canberra, who I discovered late in the game, and he had this theorem, or he proved that you can do this kind of two-dimensional multiplication with a 60-degree angle and get 2 times 2 equals 4 or 3 times 7 equals 21, all using triangles. And that what we do in synergetics is you could call the 3D analog of that. And for those of you who are trapped on a plane, like you've got a cool geometry going, but it's just flat, think about this as a possible way to get off the plane, right, into the tetrahedron, where synergetics is, and why a 1 by 1 by 1, or d by d by d, diameter of a sphere, that tetrahedron is our unit of volume, and you can also use d to mean the face diagonal of a volume 3 cube, same d. Just remember that, and you'll understand the synergetics constant sooner than you would have probably. Anyway, thank you to Australia, not just Canada. As for lower 48, I don't know. I'm not really. I'm looking to Japan, and I think the manga that come back, or manga, the didactic manga that we get from Japan about synergetics are going to help people here, because obviously the schools here have given up. They're not even trying. So I'm not trying to help them that much because I know they don't want my help. So I feel better about working in the manga sphere at this point. So I'll see you there, guys. Talk to you later.